All right, so this is the case, the sensational case that the United States of America is watching closely. It is the case that's known as the president and the porn star. Donald Trump is at the center of it. He's a man who wears many hats. He's a politician. He's a former president of the United States of America. He's a businessman, a billionaire. He's also a reality television star who knows how to turn a controversy to his advantage. He's a man who's known to have no filter. But there's another thing about the former American president. He is known to turn every disadvantageous position clearly into something that favors him. And this is exactly what this moment is all about. Now, Donald Trump became the first American president, sitting or former, to be criminally charged. For anyone else, this may have potentially meant the derailment of their political career. But in Donald Trump's case, this does not appear to be what is happening. Think about it. He's the only president to have been impeached twice. He's been accused of starting a riot at the Capitol Hill, and today he could possibly be arrested. But numbers do not, of course, tell you the complete picture, because you need to listen to what the American people, of course, are saying. This is according to a Quinnipiac University poll, where it states that 55% of the voters believe that the hush money trial is simply not fair against Donald Trump. 62% of the respondents in this poll say that the district attorney's case is motivated mainly by politics. There's another poll which says that 80% of the Republicans call this trial to be a clear case of a political witch hunt. The same poll further states that 45% of the GOP believe that Trump has not done anything wrong. The Morning Consult poll says that voters are split, who say that New York's grand jury's decision to indict Donald Trump was mostly based on evidence. Now, these numbers will give you an overview. But we have to talk about the Republican base specifically. The people are more than convinced as to who the next president of the United States of America should be.
I just hope to see him come back. I hope to see him run for 2024 and become the president again.
Yeah, I'll travel around anywhere on the East Coast to see him. But he does his all for us. I'm going to give my all for him. You know, I'm not giving up. We need him back. This economy's a joke. I went shopping last night and I broke my bank account. So.
He's not the only president that has something against him. Other presidents in line have done things, and they still ran for office. So I feel that this could be a witch hunt. People trying to find things against him so he doesn't run again. And they're trying everything they could to distract him.
Now, Senator Marco Rubio has said that for the Democrats, this indictment is actually counterproductive politically. He even thinks that this is going to backfire. Now, other Republicans have gone a step forward and have said that the charges will actually help the red voters to unite and could lead to a landslide victory in 2024, because Donald Trump is clearly going to play this case as a man who is a victim of a political witch hunt. It is getting increasingly clear that the indictment will do very little to threaten Donald Trump's lead, at least in the near future as things stand. Trump, for his part, has denied all wrongdoing. And according to his lawyers, he, when he turns up at the Manhattan court today, will plead not guilty for the charges that will be leveled against him. And joining us on the show tonight is our correspondent, Susan Tehrani. She's been tracking all the developments from New York. And we also have John Christopher, who's joining us live from Washington, D.C., is a White House commentator and also a U.S. political analyst. But Susan, let me begin with you. This is a sensational case that everyone in the United States of America and indeed around the world are watching very, very closely. Give us a sense of what is expected to happen as Donald Trump would walk into the courtroom.
Yeah, Mohammed, you just laid it out so perfectly. Since yesterday when that Trump One airplane took off from Florida and to the time that it landed here in New York City, and then the motorcade went into Trump Tower, really we saw every major network and cable network really covering it second by second, minute by minute until the former president entered Trump Tower. So what we're expecting right now is, as you mentioned, a lot of interest in this case, a lot of opinions, strong opinions on which direction it should go. But in a little while from now, the former president will move from Trump Tower and head to downtown Manhattan to that courtroom where he'll be let in and escorted the entire time by a Secret Service. He'll be fingerprinted. He'll arrive a lot earlier, a few hours earlier than his set court date for around 2:15 p.m. in the afternoon. We have heard from multiple sources that there won't be a mugshot. Reporters had asked for there to be live cameras in the courtroom. That motion was dismissed. However, a group of photographers and pool videographers will be taking photos, before that proceeding, as short as it may, will start. So a lot going on, a lot of interest, as you mentioned, a lot of opinions. But I think the most important thing for everyone right now is what are those charges against the former president?
Absolutely, indeed. What are those charges that are being leveled against the president? Because this is pretty baffling for people outside the United States of America, that although Donald Trump has been indicted, we still do not know what charges he actually faces. We expect that the charges will be read out when Donald Trump, of course, appears in the court. Let me, in fact, bring in our guest, John Christopher. He's joining us live from Washington, D.C. John, this is a case that will have a lot of ramifications on the path that politics in the United States will take. Give us a sense of how Donald Trump will be affected by this very sensational case that he finds himself in the middle of.
Now, despite the GOP, the Republican talking points, I would not underestimate the Manhattan DA, Alvin Bragg. Mm-hmm. He is a formidable attorney and a formidable DA, and he won convictions against Trump's organization for falsifying business records. The business had to pay $1.6 million, and the fine of Alan Weisselberg is in Rikers Island, not a very pleasant place, not far from LaGuardia Airport, which this young lady had mentioned. And I'm from New York City. I grew up about 2 miles away from Donald Trump. He has a history of fraud. He has a history of countersuing people, and he has a history, which I think, as we say, the jig is up. And now we know nothing about the indictment until 2:30. Then it will be unsealed. It will be public information, and Donald Trump will then have to pay the piper. We'll see what happens.
All right. Now, Mr. John Christopher, my follow-up question to you is this. Everyone is talking about the hush money that Donald Trump allegedly paid to Stormy Daniels. But the question that I want to ask you is this. Is it illegal to pay a sum of money for someone to keep quiet under the U.S. law? Because this is effectively what this entire case revolves around.
No, that's not what this entire case is about. This entire case is about fraud, about not paying his income tax.
Right.
It's about paying this poor fellow, Michael Cohen, $130,000. He reimbursed him after he told him to set up an entity and then pay off Stormy Daniels and other women who Trump had sex with. And then he committed a fraud, and his business records were fraudulent. He didn't pay the IRS. He paid Michael Cohen back for this, and that becomes then a campaign contribution. If you pay someone during a campaign to shut up, it's called hush money, then, it's all going to come out, and we're going to have quite an opportunity at 2:30 our time, which is probably well after midnight your time. But stand by and stand up. So we'll see what happens. Mohammed, it's a pleasure to be with you. You're very knowledgeable, I will say, as everyone in beyond.
All right. Thank you very much indeed, Mr. John Christopher. Now, let me in fact probe you a bit further here, because everyone, including in the United States of America, is talking about this case as a case of hush money that was paid to Stormy Daniels. And you're now saying that this is actually a case of Donald Trump not disclosing his tax returns and that he's committed fraud while talking about his taxes. Is this what this case is now?
Falsifying business records is a felony. That we take things very seriously in this country, and the IRS and the state taxation folks, they want their money. That's how we collect money, and he's avoided it all his life. He has many failed businesses, including Trump University, where he took young people's money and never gave them a college education that they had paid for. Trump wine, Trump, you name it. Trump, everything, stakes, you name it. The guy is a walking criminal, and he's going to get his up. Now, whether or not he's remitted to jail today, no, he won't be. The judge will let him go, and he'll wait, and then he'll have to sit around and sweat it out. And over the next few months, there'll be a trial. And don't forget, there's a federal investigation. Special counsel is looking at Mar-a-Lago. There's the January 6th day, and it just goes on. And Trump, I'm afraid, has met his match with the District Attorney Bragg and with a very fine judge today as well.
We will, of course, see when the charges are read out. Mr. John Christopher, do stay on with us. Let me, in fact, bring in my colleague, Susan Tehrani, who is, of course, with us on this broadcast. Susan, at this moment,
above the law.
And this is what is now being reported. According to reports, it says that Donald Trump faces 1 felony charge and also 30 counts in his indictment. We don't know what the charges are against him. We will not know till the charges are read out in the court in some time from now. But Donald Trump, according to reports, is likely to plead not guilty. Tell us a bit about the defense that Donald Trump's lawyers have prepared.
Well, he's gonna defend himself. He says he's not guilty. I didn't do nothing, as he says. I did nothing wrong. He didn't incite people to go to the Hill on January 6th.
Right.
He did nothing wrong. That's what he pleads, and that's what the Republicans plead. But the fact is that no one is defending what he did. They just say he didn't do anything.
Absolutely, absolutely. We've heard from you, Mr. John Christopher. Thank you very much indeed. I want my colleague Susan Tehrani to, of course, come in on this. Susan, tell us as to what Donald Trump's defense lawyers are likely to argue when Trump appears in the court today.
So first, we have to understand what the charges are. Despite a very passionate public on both sides of the aisle, you're innocent until proven guilty. And paying hush money to a porn star is actually not a crime on the one hand. And I'm just saying what the lawyers will probably argue and what has been argued so far by many lawyers. Paying hush money to a porn star is not a crime on the one hand. On the other hand, what Alvin Bragg and his judges and prosecutors want to do is hope to elevate this and say that President Trump used campaign finance money to pay Stormy Daniels. If they're able to do that and kind of Frankenstein this case together, then we'll have to see whether or not that felony charge is related to this issue. I think they've set up a few motions. One motion we do know is regarding the statute of limitation of this case. It's been 7 years. Many prosecutors before Alvin Bragg had decided to throw out this case, and also federal prosecutors. We do know a motion is also being prepared regarding a possible gag order on the part of the judge on the basis of First Amendment issues where Donald Trump wants to continue talking about this case as a presidential candidate. And then the motion of, the hush money issue that you talked about. So those are some of the things that we know. But, once again, I hate to go back in circles. We have to wait and see what the charges are.
Absolutely. It's baffling that although Donald Trump has been indicted, we still do not know what those charges are. We'll get to know once the judge, of course, reads those charges out. Thank you very much indeed to my colleague Susan Tehrani and also for Mr. John Christopher for joining us in this broadcast and for giving us all those insights there.